Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are here to talk about this machine right here. This is the Anet A8 and it was sent to me by Anet so that I could go ahead and review it for you guys. So today we're going to do a little bit like we did in my last review, and I'm going to show you how I put it together. And then once we have it put together, I'm going to give you my first impression, and then I will do a follow-up video doing for this machine a little bit different. It will be the modifications that I do to it as well as how the printer is going. So let's get into the time lapse. So first thing to note about this printer is that it was actually really easy to put together. The instructions that are on the micro SD card that's included were actually pretty easy to understand. There were a couple of things that they skipped and missed altogether, and a couple of things that were kind of difficult to see how it went together, but if you looked at the pictures of the final product at the back of the guide, it made it a little bit easier. So in terms of putting this together, it went fairly smoothly. So the only real glitch that I had putting this together was that these rods right here were impossible for me to push them through into the 3D printed plastic parts. Now, a couple people had recommended that I pull the parts out, or the rods out, to go ahead and drill the holes bigger. Unfortunately, I had pushed them in just far enough that I could not get them back out. So I ended up using a rubber mallet to pound them into place, and it did end up working. All in all, the build itself took me about 4.5 hours, four-ish, somewhere between 4 and 5 hours. And that does not include the cable management. I did that after the fact, once I kind of knew where things needed to go. It was a pretty easy build. Everything went smoothly. My power supply worked perfectly, and everything was in working order with the exception of one thing, which is why I only have a handful of prints here. The part cooling fan does not work, so I have ordered a replacement, and hopefully I will have it here relatively quickly, so that I can go ahead and get you guys a full review of more detailed, bigger prints to kind of see the capabilities of the printer. It does come with a spool holder, which is right here. This is not my favorite spool holder that I have used. I will probably print the one that attaches to the top of the printer. This kind of seems to get in the way, but it does come with one. It was also very easy to put together, just not my favorite that I've used. The printer itself, let's talk about the build volume. It's a 220 by 220 by 240 build volume. And I have tested the extents on all of them, and I do get that measurement, Z, Y, and X. So I do have the full build volume. I have not printed to that size, obviously, but I did tab over until I could get the entire build volume done. The LCD display is not my favorite, and the display itself is fine, but I really don't like the buttons. The buttons are slow. Sometimes you click one and it doesn't do anything. And sometimes it's really, really a pain to go from one thing to the next. It takes way longer than it should. So I'm not a huge fan of the buttons. That wouldn't be a make it or break it for this unit, in my opinion, but to others it might. It does come with some tape on the bed. I did rip the tape, unfortunately, when one of my Z motors I apparently had not plugged in well enough and it came loose during mid-print, and then it stopped raising, so it was printing on top of itself, pushing things down, and I ended up ripping the bed. So I am looking to do something other than painter's tape, possibly build tack or something else like that, just to have a nicer print surface in the first place. The paint or the tape that they did have down worked really well. Things stuck to it. It's very bubbled, and I personally do not like bubbled tape. It drives me crazy. It's like when your phone screen, you put a screen protector on it, and you get that one bubble in the center that drives you crazy. That's what looking at this bed does to me right now. So I will most likely be changing that sooner rather than later. All in all, though, it has worked really well for me, with the exception of the part cooling fan. I have had no issues with anything else. All the electronics went together as expected. My first impression is that it was an easier build than I was expecting. It can be a little overwhelming when you first open the box and see all the parts and pieces and see the electronics and all of that. This is the first printer that I've built from start to finish. The Trinus I did as well, but it was only 37 screws and not a whole lot in terms of the electronics, just plug and play. So this was the first one that was a full-on build for me, and it went a lot smoother than I was anticipating. You know, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And it ended up better than I expected. The prints that came off of this, I'll zoom in on these so you guys can see, I was really impressed with. There is some issues. I think most of them will disappear once I get the cooling fan going, or at least mostly disappear. My calibration cubes are all pretty close to 20 by 20 by 20. The only one that needs to be adjusted is the y-axis, and even that only needs to be adjusted very slightly. So I was definitely impressed. I did make a couple of adjustments on the printer between the first cube and the third cube that I printed, but once I printed the third cube, I realized there was very little else that I could adjust until I had a part cooling fan on there that was in working order. But I am thoroughly impressed with what I have seen so far. I didn't know what to expect when it came to this printer. I've heard good things, I've heard bad things. And I have to say my impression, my very first impression, is that this machine for the price is a really good deal. That being said, if you're expecting this printer to work for you flawlessly 100% with very little tinkering, I don't think that this is the machine for you. If you're looking for a machine that you can work on, that you can do upgrades to, that you want to be able to play with and change things, and you get to decide where the money goes, then this machine would be a great option. So in that case, I think that this unit is an awesome printer for the price. It ranges anywhere from $150 to $250 depending on where you buy it. Again, this was sent to me by Anet, and there will be links to them down in the description box below for more information. Huge thanks to Anet for sending this machine to me. I really, really appreciate it. I look forward to playing with it and making some adjustments, and once I get the part cooling fan, you guys will be seeing a lot more things to come off this printer. So I think that's all I have to say about the first impression of this printer. If you've had any experiences, if you've had any experiences that you would like me to know about this printer, leave a comment down below so that I know. And also, if you have any suggestions of modifications you think that I should make to this, I would also love to know those. I do have a list of a handful of them that I would like to do immediately, including a cover for the electronics. a different part cooling fan, some extra supports. I want to hold off until I have a working fan though, because all of my modifications that I do to this printer, I want to come off of this printer. So those, and then the spool holder will also be printed as soon as I can. So if you have any suggestions of things other than that that you think that I should do immediately, let me know. I will be also doing a new power switch. That is one thing to mention about this printer. It does not have a power switch to power it on. You have to just plug it in. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think every printer should always have an on and off switch. So I think that's everything for today. Again, leave me comments down in the comments below if you have any questions, concerns, things that you want to mention. I do read them all. I cannot respond to all of them, but I do try to. For those of you who don't know, I am in a new office area. This is my new studio. There is going to be more things coming in the near future to the studio itself, as well as a studio tour once it is done. And I do still have to work on some lighting because I know it's a little bit darker in here than it was previously thanks to the red walls behind me. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week, and I will see you guys again next time.